Happy Tuesday! We're back! Welcome to Channel Slevin Views. I am your host, Slevin, and we are here to discuss my views on Quiet on Set. So this is my part 2 to my last video of Quiet on Set. Today we're going to be discussing Drake and Brian Peck, aka Pickle Boy. So keep in mind that I'm not coming from a place of malice or anger. You know, I'm just coming from these videos are my views. Like, what would Slevin do? How does Slevin think about these type of things? You know what I'm saying? And I'm just hoping that, you know, other people kind of agree with how I view things. All right, so let's get started. Are you ready? Are you ready? Because I'm ready. I got my Shinobi shirt on. Kunai is coming out. Let's get into it. All right, so when Drake Bell faced his assailant Brian Peck, aka Pickle Boy, in court, he imagined that Mr. Peck would finally get what he deserves. Imprisonment, register as a sex offender, face some type of backlash for what he did, and never ever get to work in his field again. Unfortunately for Drake Bell, that was wrong. To his astonishment though, Brian Peck's side of the courtroom was full of nothing but support. Makes you wonder how connected this man really is, you know? Like, how connected are you? like, to know that this man has done such horrendous things to this little boy, and these people are like, his whole side is full. I'm baffled. I'm baffled. But let's get some backstory in this. Let me. If you guys didn't watch the documentary, let me give you some backstory. And if you did, let me refresh your memory, right? So if I'm looking off to the sides because I'm looking at my laptop, because I typed this down, I don't want to miss any points this time. I think I missed a lot of points last time. So Drake Bell has been acting and or auditioning for shows, commercials, movies ever since he was 5. His dad, Joe Bell, would take him to auditions, you know, from school. We'll pick him up from school, take him to auditions, and you know that became very successful to them because Drake landed roles on commercials. He landed roles on, you know, some hit TV shows such as Seinfeld, Home Improvement, and then he also landed a role on that movie Jerry Maguire where he like fake flipped him the bird or whatever. Sorry. But then he got hooked in by Nickelodeon for the Amanda Show. So it was a big deal, you know. I would assume this would be a big deal. But I'm not gonna give my views on Drake's career per se. My views are on the actions that Drake's family took, the carelessness his mother had when Drake was manipulated by Brian Peck, aka Pickle Boy, to like take his father out of the managing role and then basically overall become his manager, and just the minimum punishment that this man, this imbecile, got from what he did. You know, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I would assume when you kind of like do the things that he did, you face years, you know, minimum 5 years. But let's dive in. What happened to Drake Bell was horrible. I'm not here to take away from that at all. I understand that a predator will always look for an advantage, but that's what a parent is there for. You know, especially if you're a parent that has a child in Hollywood, you're there to protect them, you're there to guide them, you're there to make sure nothing bad happens to them. You know, in the documentary, Drake explains to us, you know, that, you know, me and my dad were used to this. You know, we didn't know the ins and outs of Hollywood, you know, et cetera, et cetera. So when Drake was 12, he landed that role on the Amanda Show. The first season, it was good, but then the shift of production from Paramount to Nickelodeon on Sunset, that's where the dialogue coach, Pickle Boy, Brian Peck, comes in. And you know, Joe Bell, you know, so with Brian Peck's, his background, it was astonishing. You know, like, he worked with a lot of prestigious actors. He worked with Leonardo DiCaprio. You know, I'm assuming that Joe Bell, which is, you know, Drake's dad, was impressed, you know, by this dialogue coach. So Joe Bell stated, you know, Pickle Boy, well, not Pickle Boy. Brian Peck, well, I want to call him Pickle Boy though, but Brian Peck liked to give lessons at his house. To me, that was the first red flag. Like, you don't have an office, you know, like you don't have like a building for this, any like you do business at home. All right, say less. That would have been my first red flag. I would have been like, all right, how about you come to our house or whatever. Joe Bell was always within eyesight, you know, like he always kept his eyes on Drake. You know, he never really let him out his sight. But then he noticed, you know, then Joe noticed that Pickle Boy was really touchy-feely, you know, especially when they were on set. So, you know, Joe goes to explain, you know, I wasn't in the green room like the rest of the parents were. I was always, you know, within eyesight of Drake. I always made sure that I saw Drake. I was, you know, I was offset, but I always made sure that I was able to monitor Drake, you know. And while he was monitoring this, he noticed that Pickle Boy was really touchy-feely, you know, like whenever he fed Drake lines, he would put his arms around his waist, or he would put his hand on his shoulder, and it would like trickle down to his arm. And as Joe Bell stated, it was just always uncomfortable. That's what he said. It was always uncomfortable. So Pops goes to production and complains about Pickle Boy's behavior. You know, he doesn't, you know, he touches my son a little too much. Like, I don't like that. So their retort was, well, Brian's gay. Maybe you're just homophobic. And I'm just like, nah, no. This is a parent expressing his concern. So here's my view. Because let me tell you something. I cannot fathom me being in this, like, I can't imagine me being in this situation. But here we go. What I think Joe Bell should have done was gone straight to Brian Peck, straight to that man, whether it be, you know, offset, or it could be like, you know, whenever he takes Drake to his house to do the dialogue coaching or whatever. Pull that man to the side and tell him, stop touching my son. I don't like the way it makes me feel. I'm pretty sure I don't think my son likes it. I would appreciate it if you stop touching my son. You don't need to touch him to discuss lines. You don't need to caress his arms. You don't need to put your arms around his waist. To me, it's inappropriate. He is underage. Stop touching my son. Straight like that. Go straight to the source. Straight to the source. I don't understand why he didn't go straight to that man and tell him, yo, don't touch my son. Like, leave my son, like, don't touch him. I don't care. I'm sorry. I'm not scared of nothing. I'm not scared of nothing, especially when it comes to my kid. I'm going for that. I'm going for that. As a man, as a father, as an adult, he should have went straight to Brian Peck. He should have went straight to Pickle Boy, and he should have told him straight to his face, yo, stop that. Stop touching my son. I bet you probably from then he would have known, all right, this kid ain't nothing. This kid ain't nothing. This is not a good candidate type thing. You know what I mean? So whatever. Regardless though, Joe was ostracized and he backed off. Couldn't be me. So he backed off, and you know, he was expressing how he felt to everyone except for that ain't no pirate. Pun intended. All right. So Joe Bell tried his best, you know, when he noticed that, you know, he wasn't going to get any help from production. He tried his best to keep Pickle Boy, you know, away, you know, from his son. You know, he tried to keep them away. But, you know, he was very calculated and, you know, very conniving, I would say, when it came to Drake Bell. You know, he slowly seeped his claws into that little boy, you know. He went to his concerts, you know. And I didn't even know that Drake was an artist, honestly. He had a whole band I didn't even know. I didn't really watch Drake and Josh like that. I kind of was in a like older teen, probably going in my 20s by then. I was done with Nickelodeon, so. But yeah, he played a major role. So Pickle Boy ended up turning, well, Drake against his father, right? He started feeding him lies like, oh, you know, he's stealing money from you. He's being a problem on set. You know, Pickle Boy targeted Drake's family. You know, he targeted his family dynamic because it was somewhat broken. I'm assuming because of their divorce, but he targeted this kid, and he knew that he was going to be able to, like, just, you know, claw in, you know, and just get, like, predators are going to pred. I don't know. So this caused a huge rift between Drake and his father. You know, it really broke his heart for him to, you know, I guess his son fired him basically. And if to Joe Bell, this felt like another divorce. This felt like he was going through a divorce all over again. So when he handed over all the information, the accounts, whatever it is whatever you do for you know, a kid that's in Hollywood, when he handed all that stuff over to Drake's mom, he told Drake's mom, under no circumstances do you leave Drake alone with that man. Do not leave Drake unattended. Do not. Well, she was bamboozled because she let Pickle Boy take Drake to Disneyland unattended. You know, at this point, I think when he fired his father from being his manager and made his mom his manager, the Amanda Show was done, and so they had a big gap in work because he was offered the Drake and Josh show, but they haven't been in production yet, so it was like a big gap. So eventually Pickle Boy puts himself in the position of Joe Bell, the position that Joe Bell was in, basically taking him to castings, or I'm assuming other things Hollywood related, you know. But like I said, unattended. There was no parent around. So one you know, Drake explains, you know, he lived in Orange County, and I forget where Pickle Boy lived, but it was like, you know, I would say, you know, maybe an hour or so away. And instead of Pickle Boy dropping Drake off, he would like make an excuse like, oh, I'm gonna take you in the morning, you know, we'll go in the morning, you know, I'll drop you back off home, I'll drop you back to your mom in the morning, like it's really late right now, just, you know, just spend the night, you know. I don't understand how like a mom can allow, you know, an underage boy to spend the night at a grown man's house unattended, or just a stranger. This man is a stranger. He's not a family member. He has no relation to you guys. I don't understand how she allowed that to happen, but she did. So one day, this is Drake telling his story now. One day, now he was 15 at this point. One day Drake woke up to Pickle Boy assaulting him, you know, and to my surprise, Drake said he froze. And I'm sorry, but I'm fighting and I'm taking all your money. I'm like, what? I am suing you for everything you got, everything. I like the fact that he didn't run out of the house bequeathed me. Like, I'm fucking lost. I don't even know how he was. Whatever. I'm not here to judge him because, you know, everyone has different reactions, you know, so I'm not here to like, I'm just saying, if it was me, I would have been like, yo, what is you doing? Especially if I'm a dude and I'm not gay. Nah. So he didn't really tell anyone about what Pickle Boy did to him, but Pickle Boy did apologize. And, you know, he said he's never going to do it again. Now, like I said, if the mom would have listened to Drake's dad and not allow Drake to be unattended with Pickle Boy, Ryan Peck, this probably would have never happened. As a mother, I can't see it any other way. You really fed your son to the wolves. You just let him go. I don't know. Anyway, Pickle Boy didn't mean his mark as apology because he kept abusing this boy. Like, he abused him, you know. And to watch Drake retell this story, it just, you know, he just looked so uncomfortable. I just felt so bad for him. And, you know, how bad he was let down and how careless and trusting his mother was to this predator. You know, if I was his mom, I'd cry every day. I'd cry every day for years, like until I die. Like, I would cry every day knowing that I let something like this happen to my kid, you know, to my precious. I just can't. I just cannot. Anyway, some little good news, little light in the tunnel. Drake eventually got himself a little girlfriend. A little girlfriend. Let me stop. But anyway, he finally felt safe, you know. He felt, I guess, protected. He felt safe. He felt like, you know, he spent a lot of time with her, whether it was with her or at her house. You know, he felt safe. And I'm happy that he was able to find that during this traumatic time in his life. One day, though, Pickle Boy calls Drake's phone, but he doesn't answer. This is why he's hanging out at his girlfriend's house. And, you know, Pickle Boy is blowing up this boy's phone. Like, he's blowing up Drake's phone, calling back to back, to the point where, like, he starts calling the girlfriend's house phone. And he's not, like, he didn't pick up, you know? So then here comes the girlfriend's mom. She ends up picking up the phone. And she hands over the phone to Drake. And he had no choice but to speak to that maniac. He didn't have no choice. So it turns out that Drake, Pickle Boy, Brian Peck, they had plans to go to Disney World. And so what Drake did was like, he finessed the situation. He's like, oh, I must have double booked. Well, you know, I'm not gonna be able to make it. I'm with my girl, you know, I'm not, you know, I completely forgot. I'm sorry, you know, I can't make it. And he hangs up the phone. Pickle Boy was furious. Like those vocals? Let me stop. And he started calling again, back to back, back to back, back to back. So the girlfriend's mom peeped game, and she was like, Drake, let me talk to you for a quick second. Let me step outside real quick. And she goes, why is a 40-something-year-old man calling you like that? Is everything okay? Is everything okay? You know, like, why he blowing up? It's upsetting me and my homegirl.
It's upsetting me and my homegirl.
Why he blowing you up? And you know, the girlfriend's mom, like, she knew something was not right, but Drake brushed it off. You know, he brushed it off. He was like, oh, you know, he's becoming a little weird, so I'm trying to like distance myself, you know, and blah blah blah. But here's where, like, I feel once again Drake's mom dropped the ball, because the girlfriend's mom contacted her and said, yeah, I'm gonna have him talk to our therapist because something doesn't seem right with this situation. As a mom, what? You're gonna have him see your therapist? I'm sorry, but why? Huh? You said he's calling him how many times? Accuse me? So they gonna accuse me? Where was the inquiries here, mom? Where was the inquiries? You really not down for your son for real. You just want that bread. Let me chill. Sorry, that was a quick kunai that came out. I'm sorry. So when Drake spoke to that family therapist, you know, he kind of like, you know, he didn't really open up, you know, because he was manipulated and intimidated by Brian Peck. Drake felt if he didn't come forward, he wouldn't be able to work in showbiz anymore, you know. So that was the situation there. That's I don't know, that's what it was. That was Drake's excuse, you know. I'm not going to be able to work in showbiz, you know, like Nickelodeon is the only freaking network, whatever. All right, so boom, here we go. Drake is in production reshooting the pilot for Drake and Josh. And Brian Peck is there, Pickle Boy. But Brian Peck is there, and you know, he's like telling Drake, he's like, yo, you should go to Dan, the tyrant producer. Tyrant animal. He's an animal. Anyway, he's like, you need to go to Dan and tell him I want to be, you know, you think it's a good idea if I play the dad. And you know, in Drake's head, he was like, he didn't want him anywhere near this show, like anywhere near this show. And like, who could blame him? You know, who could blame him? So some time passes by, you know, and Drake is on the phone with his mom, and she, you know, they're discussing, I guess they start discussing the Drake and Josh show, and he finally like just blows up, and he's like yelling this at his mom, like over the phone, all of the things that this man has done to him. I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh, but I can only imagine him like screaming like the things that he did to him, like screaming. It's like a mom is like, what the I'm sorry. Because this is bad. But it's like so random, like, you know, like imagine. So, you know, finally, the mom does something right, calls the police immediately, and Pickle Boy is finally busted. Finally! Let's get Joy Boy. Celebrate the liberation. Yes! You're going to jail! Fucking asshole. Anyway, so here we go. Drake calls his dad, tells him, hey, Brian Peck's been arrested. But he did not divulge that he was the victim. Unfortunately, you know, when he explained it on Quiet on Set, you know, when I saw him explain this, you know, he's like, I'm not the same person I was before I heard this news. And just like watching, like, my heart broke, man. My heart broke, you know, like my heart broke, because if he was probably still his manager, this may have not happened, because mom was wildin'. Like, she was wildin'. Like, why did you let that little boy by himself? Like, why did you leave that little boy by himself with these adults? It was just so freaking weird. Like, just, I don't know. Like, I think that's weird. Okay, I just felt really horrible watching him relive this. So let's get to sentencing. Let's get back to the beginning of the video. Like I said, Pickle Boy's courtroom, the side of Pickle. All right, so let's get back. During sentencing, Pickle Boy's side of the courtroom was full. No Nick reps, no Dan Schneider, but some celebs, and I'm assuming some like Hollywood executives. They didn't really, disclose who was there with him, but those people are fucking sick, okay? I think when it comes to like these people that do these type of things, there has to be some type of like connection, like an elite connection, because Brian Peck has had house parties. He showed multiple house parties. And parents were there too, and they were, this was like back in the day, So John Wayne Gacy, right? This is not too far off. This is not too long ago. When I'm like, whatever John Wayne Gacy did is not too far from whenever Pickle Boy had his summer, his house parties and stuff like that. This man practically bragged about being pen pals with John Wayne Gacy. And y'all know what John Wayne Gacy did. And if y'all don't know, go ahead and Google that man. All right. So he bragged about being pen pals with John Wayne Gacy. He had a self-portrait that John Wayne Gacy like painted of himself and sent to Pickle Boy. And this wasn't a flag to not one parent, not one regular adult. Like the whole secrecy level here is of these sickos. There has to be a whole level of secrecy, like a whole type of different level of secrecy, because even though Drake was presented as a John Doe in a court document, regardless, Pickle Boy is still a known person in Hollywood. This is a known, I would say, celebrity, and none of this was covered by the media. This wasn't in the news. This wasn't in the tabloid. This wasn't in a newspaper, at least. Then he had 41 letters from celebrities sent to the judge defending him, and even as low as victim blaming, all sent to the judge. So this man is, I would say, affiliated with John Wayne Gacy and is protected and defended by Hollywood elite. Nothing that he did was in the media, was reported. Nothing. This man did not face not one type of backlash. Not one type. Ultimately, Brian Peck had about 6 to 7 charges from Drake's case. So this is what happened. I'm not gonna disclose the charges because I don't, they're really bad. They're really, really bad. But you can, if you watch, you'll see. If you watch the show, you'll. If you did, if you didn't watch the show, you can Google it. He faced 16 months in prison for what he did to Drake. 16 months. Ordered to register as a sex offender. And when he got out, he did what all other sick, connected people do: find another hunting ground. All right. So if you recall, when I said the 41 letters, whatever, were sent to the judge, there were these two, I think, producers. I think they're either husband or wife or brother and sister. They're called the Carells. The Carells, at this point in time, when he got out of prison, was working for the Disney Channel, and they were working on a show called Zack and Cody. Right. For some reason, Brian Peck obtained a job working on Zack and Cody. So the Carells worked at Nickelodeon with Brian Peck, went probably to court for him as well, and also sent that letter in the mail, right? This was their response when I don't know who found out, but it was reported in the newspaper or in the tabloids that Disney's hiring sex offenders. Brian Peck is a sex offender, right? So they had to get rid of him because it was reported on the tabloid. So this is what the Carells said regarding Brian Peck, aka Pickle Boy's employment. And I state, they had no input or involvement in casting. That's what they said. That's all they had to say about that. But you knew he was a registered sex offender, right? And you knew he was in jail because of what he did to Drake, right? Get the fuck out of here. Y'all knew exactly what that man did. If you knew, if a right, they probably doing the same thing too, but whatever. If you know, okay, this man is a sex offender, this is a kids channel, we can't have this man working here, why offer that man a job? Make it make sense. To hear how Drake self-destructed himself from the depression of his assault reminds me of a lot of Hollywood, child actors who are now adults that are roughly doing the same thing. Let's hear it. Amanda Bynes, Britney Spears, Aaron Carter, rest in peace, Lindsay Lohan, Macaulay Culkin. The list goes on. We don't know what could have happened to these kids and why they are so damaged now. We don't know. We really don't know. I can only imagine what, based off of Drake's, story. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to hear that they weren't protected. I'm sorry to hear that there are sick people in this world that can harm innocent children. I'm sorry that the parents as well were not vigilant enough for with their children's safety. I'm sorry that I'm sorry that your parents dropped the ball on that. I really am. I really am. I would hate that, on my watch or all, like, I would hate to hear that something happened to my child and I could have prevented it. I really am. I would hate that. Shame on Brian Peck. He should legally change his name to Pickle Boy. Shame on the power that be for protecting his abhorrent behavior, whether it be partaking in it or covering it up. Regardless, shame on them. I'm disgusted, I'm disappointed, and I'm very frustrated for a lot of these adults now that were kids that had to go through a lot of these things. I'm really, really sorry. It's really sad, but here we are discussing this. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that this happened to you guys. But thanks. If you guys are still here now, thanks for staying with me through this whole vid. I want to appreciate you guys. Don't forget, please like, share, and subscribe, and please comment. Like, let's talk about it. Let me know what your opinions are. I'm here for it. I want all the smoke. But until next time, guys, I will see you later. Bye. Oh my god, I dropped the Star Wars thing.